Hallelujah. Many blessings to each and every one of you. Listen, I am in a moment of prayer and meditation time, and the flow is just happening, and I'm trying to write, but I'm not writing it down as fast as it's coming to me. So I want to be able to just share this, and that means that I'm going to share what I've already written, and then I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue with what it is that I'm receiving. Now, listen, I may have at some time or another in times past made some adjustments as far as speaking in tongues, praying in the heavenly language that I am familiar with, the various tongues that I am familiar with. As I was raised, and what that means is somebody else may hear tongues and they may feel offended by it because they didn't grow up that way, or it doesn't make sense to them, and that's okay. And if it bothers you that much, it's okay for you to not listen. And I don't mean that in an offensive way at all. I really am saying that it is your free will to choose whether to be here for the words that are going to come with the prophecy, or if it's just too much. If it vexes your spirit, then more than likely it's not something that you can resonate with. Therefore, you will not be doing it by faith, listening to me. And so it is okay for you to say, Apostle, thank you, but I can't deal with that. Okay. So I want to let you know that, because I just have to be able to show up the way I need to show up in every moment for whoever needs to hear it. When God gave me the words universal prophets of love, and I'm like, oh God, because I come from a fundamentalist background in Christianity, it's kind of tough to break loose from some of the old paradigms because you live in a place of fear. And not every Christian community teaches fear-based, but I'm going to be honest with you, many of us grew up in that space where it was more fear-based. We fear massa type of behavior, and please be, if you're offended, I'm sorry, but I need to say it this way. But everybody's screaming about the bondages that they once were in, or their ancestors once were in, and yet we still live in a bondage that many of us will not recognize, because we've lost the balance. We've lost that middle way. And yes, that is from another faith and belief system, the middle way. But we've lost that balance. We've lost equality. We've lost fairness. We've lost justice. And God is just. And so let me just go ahead and read what I've already written, so I don't get too lost and go down the rabbit hole. Forgive me also if I'm talking really fast. I pray that's the reason why we have to record now, so you can go back and listen as many times as you want to. But I'm just in that space. So to God be the glory, the great I am, oh great love divine. We thank you for this day, this hour. We thank you, oh omnipresent one, for the revelation that you are pouring out of this mouth. I am grateful to be your unique expression in this earth. I am grateful to be coming into a space where I am unapologetically okay with being everything that you have manifested me to be. And I understand, God, even the things I don't understand, I understand that it is your will, it is your way. And so I ask that as they come in, as those that are meant to listen and hear this message come into this space, that their hearts and their minds are open to what it is that you will have to say. If God let you hear, then more than likely there's something that you need to hear for yourself. And so you can be present for that, or you can dismiss yourself, says the Spirit of the Lord. And so, God, we thank you. We honor you, and we love you. We love you. We love you. It is so, and so it is. So, all right. I was sitting here, and I was, woke up and just feeling kind of, I've learned in this season to follow what I am experiencing from moment to moment to moment, because that's the way that I'm made. Now, there'll be many people who disagree with a lot of things that I am saying in some way, shape, or form, and that's okay, because that means that you are living in your authentic truth. And so I have to be able to say this to you, that as we talk about this, some are going to be like, oh, she is a false prophet. Oh, she is this. They're going to call me a witch and all these different things and negative connotations, even things they don't understand. And that's the issue. God is erasing lines all over the place: religious lines, political lines, race lines, orientation lines, status lines. God is erasing the lines because God is bringing themselves back together. Now, it happens in every single dispensation. The cycle of God, the cycle of eternity, is what God wants it to be. Now, God can change that tomorrow, and it could be nothing but a society full of people who are just so one-minded to the point where they have no individuality. He can do that. He can make it almost as if it's robotic, right? Listen to some of these words. God can bring whatever type of system or order to this world that God desires. And so if we do not awaken to this and we continue to draw our lines, then those things are going to end up passing away. So you're going to become slave to the very thing that limits you into going into the next place. But here's the beautiful thing about it, and I am going to get to this reading. I am. The beautiful thing about it is that it's all strategic, so God already knows. It's all good because it's all God. And oh man, this probably is going to be the most liberating prophetic message that I've ever given. Okay, because I really have absolutely no filter right now. So God is everything. It's all God, everything in existence, even if you do not call it God, him God, her God, even if you, them God, even if you do not call it an entity whatsoever, you're not trying to figure it out in that way, you're just trying to live your life and devote yourself to what it is that you got going on in your world, you are serving God in that. Every single unique expression of the great I am. Every single unique expression. Every single unique expression is serving God. And we may not want to accept it, but here's the thing. And I'm telling you, when I read some of this stuff, you're going to be like, okay, she already said that, but I'm just going to flow this way first. Every single unique expression. Right? Because we teach and preach. We teach and preach that God is everything, that God is omnipresent. God upholds the world in his hands, but also speak of God as the one of the entire cosmos. We are uncovering and exploring things that people a billion years ago, 1,000 years ago, 20 years ago would not have even begun to think could be discovered. And so God is forever unfolding over and over and over again in many different ways. We have cycles of life that are going to happen whether or not you rally, whether or not you burn down something, riot, whatever it is you do, it's still going to happen the way it's going to happen. Because God is designed it to be so and expressed to be so. So here's the great awakening that many will walk into within this next 200 years. And so somebody might say, well, the world's not going to last 200 years. It will, because God is eternal. And even if it takes a different form, God can do whatever God wants. So no man knows the day nor the hour. And I think honestly, that just simply is speaking for us as our individual selves, because no man knows their day nor their hour. Even if you plan it, it may be a second or a millisecond or a second later than what you thought it would be. And so God is so clever to the point where my ways are not your ways, my thoughts are not your thoughts, but they are. Like, I'm literally thinking them through each and every one of you. But here's where that makes perfect sense, because God is beyond us as much as God is among us, as much as God is as us, for us, and within us. So God is absolutely everything, and everybody in their respective places, perspective places, even they think the way they do, and they experience life the way that they do, because God has decided to express us all things and experience all things. And so this may seem really far-fetched for many, and I understand if it is. I really do, because I've gone through so many different stages of spirituality. The only thing that I know is that I've always just felt more connected with spiritual things and synchronicities and signs and wonders, but not from the perspective of trying to prove God, but because they wonder. I'm in awe of it. It brings me wonder to be able to explore. And I remember growing up in a space where I could not really do that, because to do that was to be a disrespect to God, right? But it was like being boxed into a cage, not being able to say that, hey, everything is what we give meaning to it, because God is exploring it all through us. And no matter how much you want it to be wrong, it's right for somebody, and no matter how much you want it to be right, it's wrong for somebody, and it's going to be that way, because the heart doesn't do the same thing as the lungs, and the lungs doesn't do the same thing as the toes, and the toes don't do the same thing as the tongue, right? The teeth have a hold of, and even every little piece of energy and whatever God is made of, because we'll explore it into the ends of the earth, and there's still going to be more to explore. Because guess what? There is no end of the earth unless God says it is. And what I mean by that is we see through a really small scope. And even if we go into it, like the astronauts and people go into it, it is so massive and huge. And how do we know how another planet, energy on another planet sees it? Right? There's so many possibilities, because God is all possibility. There are some things that we can see as a collective, and there are some things that we will only see as an individual. And here is where this free will and God living every perspective, and free will being the thing that is that free will is the only thing that can show forth faith. So God has to be every possibility. And somebody else may see, and this is the beauty of it. I respect your opinion so much, so I just be mindful that you have a perspective that you want others to respect and honor, and not frown at. Some people may say, oh, I don't care if they care about my perspective. I don't know, because if that's the case and you're listening to me, you probably wouldn't be present if you weren't trying to. All right, I'm gonna leave that alone. So God is all possibility, and so here's where this strategic awesomeness of God comes in. And y'all, I grew up with the Bible. I treasure it. I value it. It is still sacred text to me, to see life through the eyes of others who have experienced God in their way, in their manner, right? And it makes it even more real for me when you read about the different perspectives and the tribes and the different generations, even in the scriptures, things that were allowed back then that God did not even speak about. But yet we do in these generations. So anyway, Romans 14 was probably one of the chapters in the scriptures that just always pulled at me, right? And it's that beginning where it's talking about those that have stronger faith. For the most part, I'm gonna paraphrase a lot. Those who have stronger faith, welcome the ones with weaker faith as brethren, because we've all been in a place where we've had the lesser faith, where we didn't believe in all possibilities. Once life started taking a toll, once the great falling away of the faith started happening, when life and its opinions and everybody's and all these perspectives started bombarding us, and we started to doubt the allness and the omnipresence of God. And Jesus says in the scriptures, Christ Yeshua, or Yeshua, however you say it, he brought a little child among him, talking to the disciples, and he pretty much said, and unless you are as this child, you will not be able to enter the kingdom. And what he was speaking of is their innocence, their purity, their lack of hate, even their lack of wickedness, in the sense that they are in their purest form. They are honest until we teach them to be dishonest. We have to break out of being that in order to come back into the fullness of who God is. It's almost like the death and the birth and the death and the birth and the rebirth and the death and that process over and over and over and over again. Maturation. Ultimately, love is the ultimate maturity. It is the ultimate perfection. God is love. And so getting back to God is the journey, but God, the strategic part is that God has allowed the great falling away, because this is how we seek. This is how we get to know the fullness of God through faith, because we experience life through our eyes. And there's not any of us who can decide which perspective is more right than the other. And we can keep doing it. We can keep trying. But the reality is that we're not going to be able to ever be so mighty in our individuality that we are mightier than the greater whole of God. So when we make room for those of weaker faith, and we think we have stronger faith, the truth is that's in the eye of the beholder. Because whereas someone thinks that believing God for all possibilities, and I can do anything, and I can take a leap off of this mountain, and I'm going to be rescued, and I'm going to, and that great big old faith, right? Somebody else may say, no, that's ignorance, and that's not really faith. And who's to say? Except for the one that's viewing it. And God is looking through all of the perspectives and all of the views. And so the encouragement to love. If you know not love, you know not God. If you know not God, because here's the thing, God, according to what we've learned, is righteous, has no respecter of persons. In other words, God is not biased to any portion of itself. So when we come into the fullness of who God is, through who love is, when we come into the full unity, even those of us who think we are so enlightened still have a place where we have a bias of sort, and we're all still coming into the great awakening that every piece fits where it must. If it did not, it would not exist. Listen, everyone has a measure of faith, even if it's the little tiniest minute that nothing works, nothing ever works. At least they believe their negativity works. It proves their point. And so everyone has a measure. If you do not have any measure whatsoever of faith, then you would not be in existence, because everything is upheld by our faith, or the measure of our faith. Everything in our reality is based on that. So I don't even know if I even have to read it, but I may put it in a post or something so you can read it if you want to, because it'll probably speak this differently, more plainly, for those that may want to receive it differently. But this great falling away, I need to read it, because that part about the falling away was kind of, all of this is profound to me still. I'm in awe of God every single time something comes to revelation. But all right, let me read it. I was doing my prayer meditation, and God just said start writing. So, in order to lead others into their promised lands, you must embrace in truth and spirit that it is a such thing as a promised land. In order to lead others into their promised lands, you must embrace in truth and spirit that there is a such thing as a promised land. Now that's for leaders in whatever capacity. Everyone is leading in some capacity, even if you're just leading yourself. And so even in that, If you believe in a place where nothing ever works, everything is always twisted up, everything always just lets me down, then you cannot experience another reality. Your measure of faith is holding up your promised land. Whatever that promise is, it's the thing that pleases you, the thing that satisfies you. Okay, so I'm gonna finish reading. This promised land is the place you hope for. Somebody might say, I ain't hoping for this negative situation. Well, listen, whatever you see, whatever you envision, that's your hope. Even if it isn't something negative always happening. Even if you're listen, sometimes we look at the whole world and we see other great things happening, and we have resolved within ourselves that that thing cannot happen for us. And so therefore we have what we say, right? It's the word of our mouth. Okay. And that is going to be according, again, to your faith, your perspective. And everybody has to have one. And this is the reason why we have to have free will and let people choose. And the scriptures tell us, all things are permissible, but not all things are beneficial. So we balance that out with being able to say, okay, this is the thing that is beneficial for me. This is the thing that is not. This thing may have been beneficial at this time, but now it is not. And so, yeah, okay. So let me go on. My God, help us today. Oof, God, I give you glory. The promised land is the place you hope for. That looks different for everyone, and oftentimes we allow ourselves to become self-righteous or even unrighteous because we are no longer fair in making safe passage for another to desire theirs as well. In other words, it's okay for me to think the way I think and believe the way I believe because I've experienced this life and nobody else understands it. But we don't leave that same space for others to experience that. God is just. He reigns on the just and the unjust alike. Why? Because God literally is playing all of the parts, and it's only fair to let each part have its wholeness, have its fullness, in order for the fullness of God to be made manifest. Everything that God has uniquely expressed must come into that unique expression in its fullness in order for God to get the glory. Even if it doesn't make sense to us. Alright, let me see where I left off. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm glad I'm recording now because you can go back and listen as many times as you want because this is just pouring. We don't make safe passage for others to live their truth. And again, strategically, God pretty much hides from itself to discover itself. The story of the prodigal son kind of speaks to that. Yeah. We'll talk about that another time. We also allow others. Now, this is the before we said we don't make safe passage for people to live in their truth. We don't make safe passage for them to live in their truth, but we want to live in our truth, and we want nobody to judge us for it, but we judge other people for it, right? But we also allow others with their unrighteous thoughts to deter us. So what does that mean? Now, this is going to get a little bit tricky because sometimes people have good intentions. They have well intentions because of the experiences that they have lived. This is why God is so strategic. They have experiences from their own life, and so therefore they have a perspective, they have a truth that is based on what they have experienced in their own life. And so therefore they want to protect those that they love or they're connected to or whatever, and so they share those things with that individual because in their minds, if you don't do this, then your life is going to be awful, it's going to be horrible. But the reality is that someone else can do that same thing and live that same life and be absolutely happy about it. And so when we don't allow, right? It's not always ill intention. Sometimes it is because it's for selfish gain, but sometimes it's really someone saying, "Ooh, I want to save them from that. I want to save them from that hell." Right? I want to save them from that hell. However you view hell, whether it's real life experiences that you're experiencing every day, that you have to overcome, or whether it's the what's going to happen in your afterlife, whatever, however you view it. We try to save people from that hell because we've experienced that, and we think that experience for them is going to be the same. But here's where we block. When we don't allow others to experience their truths and make the decisions and live the life that they do. Now, of course, when you are responsible for what you've birthed, up until a certain point, you will know that when they start to really, really rebel, then that's probably because they done been through puberty and now their bodies are feeling all adultish and they're trying to find their way. And so, however you do in your society, either you let them go explore at a certain age, or you still hold them until you feel like it's appropriate for them to leave. But a lot of times that can become somebody's bondage. And God showed me this so clearly over this past season, that we have to allow people to experience what they're going to experience themselves, because that and that alone is faith. It's not faith if you fear it. No, let me say this. Let me say this. You can have faith enough to believe it, and you can have the little jitters as you go through it, but you're steady walking towards it, so your faith is strong. Alright, so let me just say, you can have courage. Courage is facing that fear and going anyway. That little jitter and going anyway, eventually learning how to cause that fear to just totally disappear, because you believe so much, you know it, you're sure, right? You're fully convinced. Alright, your faith can grow in measures. So listen, for those of y'all who think, oh my gosh, she's everywhere, I am. So you got to be able to listen over and over again. And it's coming out the way it needs to come out, because that's my right. Yes, to be me and to flow the way that I do. All right. So yeah, it can be that we are unrighteous, not because righteousness is about right standing and fairness and justice and all that. It's about equality. It's about equality. All right. And so it's about being fair in whatever case, even if that is not in favor of you. Oops. It means allowing the justice of God, even if it's not in favor of you. So anyway, the unrighteous stance is where, yeah, there's not equality. You don't believe the same is true for you as it is for someone else. That's why the laws of God work on their own. We don't have to do anything with it. They're already going to work. It's the reason why vengeance is mine, says the Lord. In other words, the law of sowing and reaping I've already established, and it will be as it is. And I'm doing this to myself. So yeah, you're experiencing it through this mortal body, which is temporal anyway. But I'm eternal. Therefore, I understand how the cycles are going to continue to go and flow. And therefore, I have to allow the free will, because I understand the cycle. The death, burial, and the resurrection. The rebirths. I understand all of it. Because I'm doing that all the time. So, unrighteousness, self-righteousness, unrighteousness, it keeps people from being able to stand in their truth, and they feel as if they must shrink back because they're trying to not upset their systems. They continue to conform to the way of the world. What's the world? It's not about church or not church. I'm sorry. It's about the heart at all times. It's about the heart at all times. Alright, so that unrighteousness can keep people from feeling like they can really show up and be their authentic self. And so then we have rebellions, and we have people who are heretical, and it's a lot of different things we call people who buck our systems. But the scriptures do tell us not to be conformed to the way of the world. The world's heart is fearful, judgmental, divided, right? No compassion, no empathy, no bearing the burdens of one another, because we are so self-righteous that we think that people only need to bear ours and we don't need to help bear anybody else's. It's the reason why I will never apologize for being this person, for wanting to love people, for wanting to see people happy. But I also do appreciate those who are able to accept me when I'm in whatever stage I'm in, because it's purposeful for my life, right? And so we all want it, but we block others from having it. But here's the other part of that. We also have to not allow it. Romans 14 again. We're not supposed to allow others to make us feel bad for what we accept. That's true faith. That's true faith. And so the falling away. But I'm about to get to that. I think I'm about to get to that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I really am sorry if it's coming out all kind of crazy, but this is how it was flowing for me. And so I had to start talking, because writing it down had me everywhere, right? So all right, so we already talked about the righteous, the unrighteous thoughts and all that other stuff. Those that hinder and those who need to not let hinder. Right? It's both. It's dual. Everything is both sides. It's both night and dark. They both matter. Not one is not greater than the other. All right, but illumination helps you to find your way. The darkness, or that place of darkness, it can give you rest or it can give you chaos. All right. Here we go. Yeah, listen, I'm pausing because I'm trying to read my writing. I was writing super fast. All right. However, as strange as it may seem, God is strategic, even in this. Right? So everything that seems to be at odds have a purpose. Again, it's like God is hiding from himself to discover himself or herself or itself or their self, or however it comes out to the individuals that is viewing it. I was listening to some gospel music yesterday, and I was in my full worship place with new understanding, of course. But I was still able to worship because I understand what they meant. And it doesn't, listen, the worship doesn't change. The understanding of why I worship and what I'm doing changes. As you grow, as you shed layers, as you mature, as you seek God for yourself, you're going to be drawn to the thing that makes sense to you. And when you do not follow that path because of fear, then you are, your faith is at a very small measure. And so, being fully convinced within yourself is what faith is. Now, that same chapter also speaks of just, okay, have your faith, live as you live, but don't use your liberties to cause somebody else to stumble. This is what righteousness is. This is what love is. This is what fairness is. And so the reason why God is erasing religious lines and all of these different things, and political lines and lines around orientation and race and cultures and all these different things, I'm gonna put this book down, y'all, because I really just need to talk. I think that's what's kind of throwing me off. But he's erasing all of these lines because God is but one. And so this awakening, this time of awakening, will seem like a falling away of the faith according to what religion believes that is. And now this is in the eye of the beholder, so however you view it, you view it. But the great falling away from the faith is not about religious organizations or denominational faith. This is about faith that all things are possible. But this must happen in order for God to be glorified. This must happen So every individual, and this happens on every level, okay? So every individual goes through this great falling away of faith. We have the time where we start doubting, where we go through these motions where we are not confident anymore in who we really were from the beginning, when we were like little children. And it's not about being childish your whole life, because we must mature. That's how we get to the place of remembering and knowing again. Right? It's a cycle even in your personal life, where it's also a cycle in the entire cosmos. All of these death and rebirths and deaths and births and rebirths and deaths and births and rebirths, all these things, they are strategic. They happen on purpose, and God is doing all of it, living all of it at one time. So when we are judgmental towards something, it causes an issue for an individual. But when we begin to come to ourselves, then we are coming back home. And that happens in the natural, and it also happens as a process of death and rebirth. And it's all strategic. It's all God. It's the reason why he looked at everything and said it's good. Right? That's the story you subscribe to. Listen, I believe what I believe. And I believe that it must be that way in order for me to truly be able to show up as my authentic self for those who are waiting to hear the words that I need to say in the way that I say them. Christ Yahshua walked this earth, and he said, "And my sheep know my voice. The voice of a stranger they will not follow." Now, he was talking about his time and dispensation, because the reality is that Christ Yahshua wasn't as arrogant and conceited to think in the way that we do. A lot of the things that were changed and concocted made it seem as if he was, trying to be self-righteous, when in actuality, he was trying to show us what righteousness really was. Living in the truth of who you are, even at the expense of the people you hold value, that you value and hold near, even at the expense of them no longer wanting to be that in your life. And this is the reason why, even as I have definitely been rejected, and I continue to be rejected by those that I've been in connection with, that I've shared heart to heart with, I still value them very much. Because at the end of the day, I respect their right to be able to choose not to deal with me because I'm speaking something that seems to contradict what they teach and what they believe for their lives. I understand it. And I think that's what Yahshua was saying when he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." In other words, he's saying they're just living their truth in this moment. And so them, crucifying me, taking me to the cross, doing all these different things, they don't understand that this is the fulfillment of my purpose. They're just in their minds thinking from their perspective that I am this heretic. I'm this person that's coming to destroy what they believe. And so therefore I must put an end to this. Well, anybody who feels intimidated in their place means that their measure of faith still has not grown past this fear that somehow we're going to be eradicated, so we need to hurt other people before they hurt us. That mindset is the mindset of unrighteousness, because it will do things by any means necessary to stop somebody else's faith, their belief, their system, their way of being. And when we do that, we in turn receive the same criticism regardless. And now people are going to think how they think. You may not even be a judgmental person, but there are going to be people who are judgmental. Well, that challenges you to see if you will end up becoming that very thing that hurt you. That would be you standing against your faith. Your faith is, you know what? I don't want to be judgmental. I don't want to have biases towards people. I want to be able to love everybody as they are, but I want other people to respect my right not to engage in what they have going on too. Plain and simple. But when people begin to feel like they have to beat you down with what they believe, because if you don't believe this, then you're going to perish, then that's the lack of knowledge. It's definitely a lack of understanding. All right. So we're talking about these awakenings and these falling ways. And believe it or not, they're just two sides of the same coin. In order to awaken, we must fall asleep. Can't awaken without sleep. You know? And so this is, man, this is the kind of stuff I've been writing for years in these journals, and some of them I've released, and some of them like, but God, what about the faces? What about the people? And he's like, this is what it means to come into the fullness of your faith. Yeah, to not waver in what you believe to be true. But I'm not here to cause anybody else to stumble. It's the reason why I will tell you at the beginning that, hey, it's okay if something that I'm doing is not working for you. That means that you cannot resonate with that. And maybe there's another voice that you can resonate with. Right? And I don't mean this to sound funny, but maybe you're the sheep for someone else. You know what I mean? And you'll be able to know the voice when you hear it. I remember it, and I think I tell the story often, but I remember when I had to, was talking to my nephew. Now, mind you, I grew up in the Christian faith, of course, and that was what I knew. That's all I knew. And I knew, based on the Christian faith, that we were very judgmental against other religions and faiths and things like that. And so when me and my nephew was having a conversation one day, I was living, I think, in Blackshear in Savannah, and me and him was sitting outside on my porch, and we were talking, and God showed me him as a Muslim, showed me that would be the path for him. And of course, I didn't understand much about it, but I did know that we went to church. Mama made sure we was there. She made sure that we had foundation of spirituality, and so all of us, I believe, are very spiritual in our own ways. But for me to have to tell him that as a Christian person, I'm a prophet first. I'm a prophet first, and this is where that universal prophet of love thing came in earlier. That I think I mentioned it earlier, where God was just like, yeah, I am one. It's the reason why I had prophets back then working for pharaohs and people of other places, and the reason why I said, hey, when you get led away into this bondage, make sure that you keep your thoughts about the people who have you in bondage. Keep that well. Pray for their prosperity, because if they prosper, then you prosper. And some people may say, but you saying they're supposed to stay in bondage because blah, 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 and you need to be able to do this. There are going to be revolutionaries every single dispensation, and that's the way God intended it. There's going to be a Moses in every single situation, every single age, and that's the way it's supposed to be. So someone will rise. But what God is trying to show us is that whatever you do for one, then that's what you should expect unto yourself, because the principle works. So even in this time of your bondage, if you speak ill of those who are in this place of their own maturation journey, and you judge them and you mistreat them and you rise up, and this is what keeps happening over and over again if you're not paying attention, that slavery and bondage and all that stuff, it happens over and over and over again at every age, because we turned into the very thing that hurt us, and we expected it not to be someone who rose up after we became the oppressor. And so God is just basically trying to say, hey, whatever you want to receive, only give that out. And by the way, go ahead and kind of go within that heart of yours, because that's where I'm looking at, and clean that space up, because it's your kingdom. I need you to take care of that kingdom of yours within, because the kingdom of God is within. Where I govern is within you. That's where I want to dwell. And so I want you to be able to come to the fullness of who you are. But guess what? I'm going to allow you to do that at your pace. Follow what resonates. Follow your faith. But in order to be able to establish your faith, you do have to go through some experiences. And those of us who are stronger in faith, those of you who are stronger in faith than me, if I'm weaker in faith than you are, please by all means treat me with fairness and kindness. With love and kindness draw me, because I'm on a journey. And so are you. Alright, y'all. I think I'm done. Am I done? Oh, them threes, y'all. Listen, the threes have been showing up a lot. And this is really how I'm going to flow. If he shows me numbers, he shows me colors, whatever he shows me or tells me, that's what I'm going to say. And I know, I hope you can feel this boldness like I can feel it. Because anyway, them threes, they're popping up everywhere. And God is speaking about protection. God is speaking about remembering that you are protected. The great I am is your protector and your stability. Your protector and your stability. So allow it. Shalom. Allow your shalom. Allow that peace that surpasses all understanding to become the thing that governs your every step, that walks with you every step of the way, because you are absolutely sure about how your life should be lived, and you're walking it out. But you're also being mindful. Here's where love comes in. You're being mindful not to harm somebody else in the process of that. So let me say this. The reason why people feel unprotected and they don't feel stable is because they've experienced something that has not been stable, right? And where they felt like they were not protected. Now, again, everything is in the eye of the beholder. Sometimes it's an intentional situation. Sometimes it's just something that nobody else can help because this is a part of your experience. Now, I know that kind of sounds awful and we don't want to really accept it, but maybe it's a part of your experience. Just talked about Jesus on that cross, and also with Joseph and his brothers. Like they that anger, that rage, the feelings and stuff that they had, that was just Joseph's unique experience to get to where it is that he could come into the fullness of himself. And so we see the challenges, and I'm telling you, boy, sometimes them challenges have you thinking, and you want to strike back. But then you become that very thing, and what you sow, you have to reap. Now, let the principles and the laws work for themselves. Don't pray evil and wickedness against nobody else, because guess what? To somebody else, you're the enemy. All right? So when we allow love, God, to be the protector and the stability of our lives by walking, your path in faith, knowing that you're going in the right direction. And even if you fumble and fall, there's something in that lesson, something in that's a lesson for you to build with. So you get up and you move forward and allow it. Allow it. You may have to write that down. Allow it. You may have to write down allow it. That might be something. The 3s. All right. Also, we're all radiating energy. We're all radiating energy. We are radiating our energies everywhere. You ever heard somebody say, "I'll match your energy"? Right. We're all radiating energy, and you get to choose what energy you're going to radiate. So choose it. Somebody write that down too. Choose it. Choose it. Choose it. Choose it. Choose it. Choose it. You may feel like you're warranted, like you are justified in your attitude and your feelings and your emotions. But here's the thing that I learned. And I shared some of this with my children and even my husband at some point, and my team. Like, I know that I go through my ebbs and flows, my highs and lows. I go through different stages and phases not because me being empathic or me being a prophet or me being sensitive is wrong. It's a part of who I am, so that I can show up as the fullness of who I am for those who may need strength from me in some way. So I need to be able to feel out things in the morning, wake up and say, okay, God, I'm feeling this. Which way you leading me today? Am I praying? Am I putting on India Aridum? You know what I mean? Am I about to listen to Londrell and Mellow Will? Am I about to get my what am I doing? Am I about to worship? Or why am I just going to pray in tongues for a minute? Am I going to have some personal time with my husband to get my day? What am I doing today? Am I going to sing? Am I going to, do a post? Am I going to just get lost in writing or studying? Or what am I doing today? What am I doing today? And so I know that I go through many different phases and stages. And so my energy changes and shifts. But here's what I'm beginning to learn. The more I settle into whatever my energy is and then choose from there what I want to do or what needs to be done, then it's beneficial. If I'm trying to psych myself out into being something that I'm not, pretending, then it's a lie and it's not authentically me. And so when it comes to my lows, even when I'm in cave time, this is how God showed it to me. He said, your lows are really the time where you need to incubate, go within, isolate so that you can be replenished and rejuvenated. And you don't need to apologize for that. But it's okay to communicate it with those who are in connection with you on a regular, so that they will know what you are doing, and it's up to them to either accept it or not accept it. But you have to do this in order to be replenished and refreshed. Now, at one point, this is, I knew it to be my depressive lows. And when we think about depression, of course, thinking about like the awfulness of that feeling. And anybody who's ever really been depressed, even if you've been situationally depressed, then you can relate. But man, there's a heaviness in that nobody wants to feel. Even the one that seems to enjoy it and stay there, it's just their familiar place. But nobody enjoys it and just wants it. Even those that seem to live in that space often, they so don't want it to the point where they even would rather leave existence than to stay in it. It's that pain you can't touch. It's the heaviness in your feet where you feel like you can't even get up and take yourself to the restroom. And so at one time I looked at that, however, as a negative, because that's what we were taught. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't get treatment if you need to get treatment. Please get treatment if you need to get treatment, so you know how to balance things out. But here's how God taught me. This is the time that I need you to incubate, because you are empathic, because you do feel, because you do pick up all type of things, because your sensitivity is so heightened. Then I need you to know that I am your protection. So when you go out, you are prepared to go out and you are protected. You're going to receive what you need to receive. You're going to be able to empty it the way you need to empty it. But when I bring you into a time of isolation, back in that shell of yours, I need you to know that it's for your protection. And so you need to be able to have that time, because this is where I minister to you, so that you can be fully equipped to go back out and minister to others. He had to explain it to me in that way, because people were trying to force this thing down my throat. Like, you don't need to do this, and you carry too much, and you're doing this and you're doing that. And I understand it, I guess, from their perspective in some way, because it feels like a burden to them, a burden they don't want to bear. But because I am absolutely okay with the fact that I'm me, then I understand that I have to bear the burdens of one another, because this is the fulfillment of the law of Christ. Now, I choose to follow the law of Christ, which is to love. And so I understand that there is a portion of time where I will have to bear that burden, even if it may seem inconvenient for someone else. So me checking up on people and being present and showing up in whatever capacity God needs me to show up, I'm absolutely okay with that. And then when I go through my other times, however, I needed to be okay for me to incubate too. And so that took a minute for me to find that balance, right? But he had to explain it to me in that way. He had to show me rocket ships and show me people falling off. And it wasn't because they didn't love me and I didn't love them, right? There was a time for that, a season for those things. And I had to be able to understand what it means to be like a non-attachment. Not that we're not attached and love each other, but I have to give you the liberty and the freedom to be able to walk the way that you need to and do what you need to do. And so he brought me into these understandings, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and give you this last one, because y'all know I can go on and on. I just heard y'all laughing in the spirit. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. All right. Here's that. So you got the radiate energy. In other words, I had to come into a space where it's okay for me to radiate my energy, and when I am in need to replenish my energy, then I need to be in that space. But even when I'm replenishing, now that I have a better understanding of what it means, I can still keep myself in a mostly optimistic state that this too shall pass. Just go ahead and let it empty all out. It's a time of very high emotions for me. It's a lot. It could be and those who live in the space with me, if I didn't understand it, I'm sure they definitely didn't understand it. But now that I'm in understanding of it, I can make statements and I can say, hey, this is where I am right now. This is what's going to make me comfortable. This is what's going to make me uncomfortable, and pray that their love for me is, to where they can allow me that space and time. But whatever energy you radiate, it's up to you. All right. And here's the thing again, whatever you give out, make sure that you're willing to get it back. However, so when you adjust your behaviors or you incubate or isolate like I do, so I can, not be, I'm so hot. During that time too, I'm even more heightened. I'm even more heightened emotionally and in sensitivities. And so it is a time for God to be my protection, right? So I'm learning to allow it. And then the energy that I radiate in any of these situations, we still talk about them threes. And if you can resonate with this and you believe in seed sowing for that purpose, a resonant seed, or love offering, you can check the description for how to do that. And I thank you for that. But whatever energy, you got to choose it. So I got to allow God to protect me, be my stability and my safety. And then whatever energy I choose to radiate, I got to be okay with that. And I got to be okay with getting it back in return if I'm not, learning how to manage it and to govern it, right? To self-govern, to use temperance. All right. So the other part, and the last part, I believe the last part, let me make sure. Oh, sacrifice and letting go. This is what it said. You can't be afraid and in faith at the same time. You say you live in the flow. Well, live it. And this is, again, not saying that you're not going to have some fear. Based on your measure of faith, right, it's going to show you the level of your fear. So I'm going to just say that. It's not occupying the same thing at once, however. It's just like two different reflections. So if your measure of faith is low, then your measure of fear is probably super, super high. Anxiety on fleek. Alright, and you got to bring that into the way that you need it to be. Your faith needs to override your fear. And if you do have any fear whatsoever, it's probably just like a nudge or something to tell you, yeah, you need to move on, or you need to, So the sacrifice in the letting go is in us saying or having the faith, or the measure of faith to believe that if I let this go, I'll never get anything as good as this again. All right, that means you got more fear than you got faith. And so when you begin to raise your vibration, change your energy, right? Believe God to be your protection as you come into the fullness of yourself. When you get to this space, you're able to live it, because you're now saying, you know what? This is the flow of life. There are things that I can change. Those things have to do mostly with me, right? My environment, things like that. And then there are things that I can't control. Like, no matter how many times you make this wonderful decision, more than likely there's some things that are going to happen to help to fortify you for the next place that you're going. So these things are going to happen. And if you say you live in the flow, live in the flow. And now most people that I know don't live in the flow. They don't like living in the flow. They don't have no organization in the flow. And I get that it's not predictable enough. But that's it. That's that measure of faith. And so the greater your faith increases, the more you just get to the place where you're like, you know what, God, we rocking this out. Kingdom of God is within me. I get to make some decisions. I'm responsible for my actions, my responses. If I want something to change and I have the power to do so, then I need to do it for my sake or for the sake of those around me. And if it's something that I cannot control, I need to trust that you have a plan for that as well. And it may be that it seems like it's more favorable for somebody else than it is for me. But if it happened, then it's moving me closer and closer to that which is mine, or that which is the fullness of my uniqueness, my unique journey. So, if you got to listen to this over and over, I would totally understand it. But there you have it. Those are the threes. So allow it, choose it, and live it. Allow it, choose it, and live it. Allow it, choose it, and live it. I'm probably going to have this posted somewhere too, so that you can have something that can be read and you can refer back to this video. Listen, if this resonates with you and you know some people that this may resonate with, go ahead and send this to them. Please, whatever platform you're listening to this on, go ahead and like it. Share it again if it's for you to share. And listen, if you don't resonate, it's okay. I love you just because I can. I really, really do. Thank you for jumping on here. Hey, join us over on coffee.com. That's ko-fi.com, either at Love Walk Outreach Global. If you just want to kind of walk along with us as we try to grow in this love walk thing, you're choosing a love walk approach, but sometimes it's difficult and you just need someone to kind of help you to see things from different perspectives. That's what we're there for. Love Walk Outreach Global, over there on the coffee site, and of course on YouTube and on Facebook. So whichever platform you're on right now, please get connected to the opposite one, which is the opposite one, at Inspirational Treasure. All right, so coffee.com/inspirational treasure or Love Walk Outreach Global, and whichever one you're on, make sure you're following the other. Inspirational Treasure, man, like this, that's my personal everything, you know, my creative abilities, my books, my podcasts, anything that I'm doing, any speaking engagements, any coaching courses that I'm going to be putting out. The Spirit Holistic School of Wellness will be coming soon with some programs that you can do at your own leisure. Man, inspired spoken word, affirmations, whatever it is I'm feeling for that day, that's what we're doing. So if you're gonna tap into Inspirational Treasure, that's what you're tapping in for. The prophet, the coach, the coach pastor in me, right? The one that wants to love on everybody, help you to see clearly to your purpose, to your path, to that treasure within yourself. And soon we're gonna have some plays and some productions, some other things that expresses what God has given me in different forms. And so if you want to follow at Inspirational Treasure, please do that. One day I might be popping up with a prophetic word. The next minute I might be sending you a song, and it don't seem like it's something I should even be sending you, but I promise you there's always going to be a message in it. And so if you will follow me on all of these platforms, I think I'm on TikTok at Inspirational Treasure, Instagram at Inspirational Treasure, and Shalonda Treasure Williams, I think, as the author, Facebook at Inspirational Treasure, and Love Walk Outreach Global. Please connect with us. If you resonate with any of this, on those coffee sites is where you would go to either tip your treasure. That means that, hey, prophet, you said something that hit me. I got it. Let me go and support you and just, you know, see what I can see and be a supporter and follow over there. But if you want to tap into Love Walk Outreach Global, that's fine as well. We just teaching gently how to see through different perspectives so that we can have this closer walking as God is bringing all of the parts back together. Amen. Many blessings.